I think it's just a good opportunity to take a little bit of an inventory of these are the things that I place my trust in, and how can I shift to trusting God? And that doesn't mean I'm just going to write God on this line. I'm just going to trust God. Like that's ultimately, but who are the people and what are the things you can trust in? Like, for example, trusting in yourself and the nudge that he gives you, believing and being confident in yourself. Or, I'm going to trust my endo because I've done the research. This one is very knowledgeable and I've been with them for 10 years or what, I'm going to trust in what they're saying. But those kinds of things, I think we need to hold our trust a little bit loosely, because we always need to be asking questions and advocating for ourselves for the best management that we can attain.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Type 1 in Midlife podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Slemp. I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at 14 years old and now founder and CEO of Abundant Health with Melissa. And as a certified health coach, I know the unique challenges of managing diabetes in midlife and beyond. So I've created a coaching model that has empowered hundreds of women to thrive despite their diagnosis. And each week, I'll bring you conversations and strategies with guest experts, along with insights from my own 40 plus years of living with type 1 diabetes. I'll also share how my faith empowers me both emotionally and helps me to navigate the daily challenges. So if you're a woman ready to redefine your diabetes journey, this podcast is for you. So before we dive in, remember this podcast isn't a substitute for personalized medical advice. Always consult with your physician or medical professional before making any changes to your diet, insulin dosages, or healthcare plan. Today, we welcome back Kaycee Parker for our ongoing series highlighting topics in her book, Devotions on Diabetes, to help us anchor our soul with the day-to-day life managing diabetes. And Kaycee has been managing type 1 since she was 12, making her an expert in her own right. And she's also a dedicated wife, amazing mom of 2, and holds a journalism degree. And for today's episode, we're turning to day 27 in your copy of Devotions on Diabetes. And if you don't have a copy yet, we invite you can simply visit the link right here in the show notes to purchase your copy. So when you can binge watch and go back and listen to some of the previous episodes that we featured other days of the journal. But it's such an amazing way to really get more out of what we talk about, and you can really utilize this book to help guide you as well. So, and today we're going to explore how diabetes tests our ability to trust our decisions. So the chapter title is Building Trust. So Kaycee will share her journey with choosing a pump in the closed loop technology and the difference between MDI and a pump. And we talk about tips for trusting in what we know, and to treating those low blood sugars. So we really talked about that specific part of things that we have to make decisions on every day, and just building in what we know and making those decisions the best that we can based on what we learn, right? We also dive into life and diabetes decisions even further. How do you know the steps you're taking? This is a question that we ask ourselves here. How do you know the steps that you're taking align with God's will? And Kaycee reflects on Psalms 27, emphasizing where we place our trust, be it family, healthcare teams, or God, ideally. And she highlights the importance of trusting in the Lord as stated in Psalms 33:4. And Kaycee shares additional verses for encouragement. If you want to note this, again, we will put this in the show notes as well. Proverbs 3:5, Isaiah 41:10, and then the book of Timothy. So this is 2 Timothy 2:13. So that's chapter 2, verse 13. And we close with a reflection on where we place our trust. There's a lot of noise out there, and we know that it's really important to tune in, pay attention, and shift our perspective to trusting God and those He puts in our lives to guide our decisions. I think that is really what's helped me over the years, is just knowing that the things that He is showing us, demonstrating, people He's putting in our path really do help us. Don't miss this episode. This is going to be a heartfelt discussion on faith and practical diabetes management. And be sure to reach out to Kaycee and myself with your feedback, and check out the show notes for ways to connect with us. And I'm sure you'll enjoy this episode, another amazing episode with Kaycee Parker, as much as I do recording them. Hello and welcome. I am back in here with my buddy, my T1D buddy, Kaycee. Kaycee, welcome back.
It's so good to chat with you again.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here. And if you're new to the show, or maybe you have kind of unplugged lately, I know the summertime is doing that for many of us. We kind of get out of routine with vacations and everything else is kind of pulling our schedules out of whack. But we are having you on the show here on a regular basis, just highlighting different days in your diabetes book, Devotions on Diabetes. It's a book, 30 days of an opportunity to anchor your soul with the day-to-day life, the management of diabetes. So today we're going to talk about day 27. So I'm going to hand that over to you, and you can start from the top if you want, just talking about, the title is Building Trust. And you start this day off with a very your whole book is relatable because it all points back to things that we decide and struggle with type 1 diabetes. Well, really all diabetes, or really anything, because again, it's very relatable. It's really just about struggles and how we can bring God in to help and guide us. So tell us about day 27.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yes, building trust. This was an interesting one for me to write, because I'm sharing a very personal story and struggle with diabetes. So I my son was 5 months old at the time it happened, and he's now 6. So this has been a few years ago, but it's kind of recent. But I basically was on a pump, and I had been on a pump for years. That was nothing new to me. And so a CGM came available. I was encouraged to try it. This will read your blood sugars every 5 minutes. It'll be a game changer. You'll know exactly where you are, et cetera, right? So of course I give it a shot, right? And the idea is, the end game is that it is a closed loop system. So in other words, my insulin pump and my CGM are, quote, talking to each other and adjusting insulin to avoid highs and lows. So it's basically like having an external pancreas, right? Like this is as close as it gets currently. So I do the CGM, and man, it was a nightmare. It was never accurate, constantly beeping all hours of the day and night. Like I said, I had a 5-month-old baby at the time, and so I was sleep because of that. And then I was losing sleep because of all the beeping, and it was inaccurate. And so what you have when your CGM is inaccurate and you're on a closed loop is that it's dosing or withholding insulin to avoid highs and lows, as it should, but based on inaccurate information. And so nothing felt like it was right. Mind you, I had good diabetes management going into this process. And so I knew what this should be like, and I knew it should be making it better and easier. And it had never been harder. And so it was just this like personal nightmare that I walked through. And I say in the book, let's see, this is on, day 27. So it's on page 118. I lost countless hours of sleep on top of losing sleep from having a 5-month-old baby at the time. It was affecting my mood, my parenting, my marriage, and maybe even my sanity.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
was,
Most
I
definitely.
was it was absolutely just taking over. And ultimately push came to shove and my husband asked me, "Why are you doing this to yourself?
Mm,
You have good management. Like your numbers are fine. Your A1C is good. Like why are you pushing?" Because at this point, I was at the end of month 3 trying this out. And so this wasn't just a couple weeks. The person I was working with kept telling me, just give it time, give it time, give it time. It has to get to know you.
mm,
I didn't know what that meant fully.
mm,
And I kept listening to her and okay, we'll get there, we'll get there, we'll get there. It's just a journey. And if you know me, I'm like, I can do anything for a temporary amount of time if the end goal is right, right? So
mm-hmm.
I just kept hanging in there and pushing, and it just became far too much. It was never accurate. And I remember one morning, I don't include this in the book, so this is extra. One morning at 3 a.m., it beeped at me and said that the sensor on my CGM had failed.
Mm,
And I tore it off my arm and went out and slept on the couch so my husband could get decent sleep for the rest of the night. And that was
mm,
it. I was
mm.
just done.
Yeah, that was it. That was the final straw. Yeah.
Oh, it
Yeah.
was just so hard.
Mm,
Um, Now, fast forward, I wear a CGM and it's accurate and that's all good and fine. I'm not on a closed loop system though, just because I just don't quite trust.
yeah.
Um, and so I'll manage that instead
Mhm.
of having diabetes tech manage that.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
And just to, I want to point out too, this is a good opportunity. If you happen to have Kaycee's book, this is perfect time to get it out. Follow us along as we go through it and just kind of, we're obviously going to be talking into some of the verses that help support this, just this roadblock can be about, just building trust and who to trust. So yeah, we encourage you to do that. And we'll definitely link how to buy the book because we hope that if you don't have it, you will get it soon. You know, this is interesting because I know in general, I know you and you are a trusting person. I think we all walk around, maybe some of us are more trusting than others, depending on the situation and the relationships that this kind of bounces off of. But when it comes to diabetes, I think you took a system that works for some people.
mhm. Yeah.
And maybe it's the tolerance of what you're willing to, I guess, go through, suffer. I don't like the word suffer, but to kind of tolerate. But with diabetes, as we know, it's tough enough. We don't necessarily want equipment that, because the point of tools is to support us to make it easier. And you clearly found something that was not supporting you. And even though you gave it time, it still didn't prove itself. So, and this is not, and we are not beating up the closed loop system here today. This is, it just goes to show you how different we all are. And even maybe these systems have improved since then, because this was 5, 6 years ago. And yeah, so I think it's real important. I think one of the things that we really want to focus on today and to really help, to kind of share is to trust in yourself. And you got to that point where, no, this is, I'm not willing to continue doing this. It's time to move on. So we got to listen to that voice rather than maybe, the pump, the insulin pump trainer who, again, they have all good intentions, but it's not always a good fit. And I heard something the other day, a couple other people, they were talking about tools and the resources that we have, with different types of pumps. And the best type of pump, there is no best pump, right? Insulin pumps,
Right.
because it all depends on who you are, what you need, your lifestyle, the time of life. You obviously, you had a young baby to take care of. So you were already kind of stretched a little thin. So you definitely didn't need something to add to your stress. You needed something to kind of help support or take that away. But
And I
one of the
thought that
things
was going to
yeah,
happen. I thought that was
exactly.
going to make it. Yeah. And you're
Yeah.
right. this is not, don't use a closed loop. I
Hmm.
know several people using one and it's working very well.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
yeah, it's totally a matter of individual fit. And I think obviously had the CGM been accurate,
Yeah.
that would have made things a lot better. But it,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
anyway, yes.
It all started with that. Yeah,
Don't
for
stop
sure.
using a closed loop just because experience, right?
Yeah.
What works
And
for you?
right. We're not here telling you what to do or what not to do. Yeah, definitely. But I think it raises question too when we're working with our healthcare team, our diabetes educators, that we're very transparent about what's working and what's not working, not to just go along because it's suggested that it's going to work, that they're telling you, hey, just give it time. And I think this really, really touches on our topic today. It's like trust in yourself. Trust God is giving you them signs. He sometimes it screams louder than not. But if you are in a situation where you can change different types of technology, do so. Yeah, definitely don't keep continuing down that path for sure.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think um obviously our ultimate trust is in the Lord.
Mm.
But you're right. He gives us feelings, he gives us urges and nudges that we can respond to and listen for that are going to help us along our journey. And I think he also works through other people. I think
Mm.
that was him working through my husband saying, "Why are you doing this?
There
What
you
is going
go.
on? You're just doing
Yeah.
this because this is the newest thing? Like, okay, but is
Hmm.
that the
Good
best?"
point. Good point.
So
Yeah.
I think he works through the people around us as well. And so
Hmm.
just to tune into that can really help us in our day to day.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, and to keep our ears and our eyes open to the people, like you say, in the situations that the Lord's putting in front of us. So this is a question I continue to have. I think maybe we've talked about this on other episodes too, but I think it's always good to come back to it. Life decisions, diabetes decisions. Um, I'll be honest, I struggle. I think we all do. We get up and we all want to do the right thing, make the right choices. I think there's a lot of noise, not only on the outside in the world, but what's going on in our own head. That's the worst, right? All
Yes.
that self talk. But how do you know? Maybe you can share. How do you know the step, the choice that needs to happen?
Hmm.
How do we know it's coming from the right? And and then I have to take a step back and say, okay, does this serve the Lord? Does this honor the situation? I guess that's always my question when I'm going through that. But sometimes that can get muddled because a decision may or may not be a ethical or moral decision, but maybe sometimes it is. I don't know how you approach that in your own thinking and your mindset. But I think that is the struggle. Even myself, somebody who is faith filled, and a believer, I still struggle with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think most people do,
Hmm. Hmm.
myself included. From time to time, I just kind of wonder. But I think, for Christmas, we made a picture frame full of things for my daughter who is 11, and it basically lines out, this is how you know something's from God, and this is how you know something is not. And if it's
Mm.
from God, it gives you comfort and peace, not anxiety and fear.
Mm.
So it's almost like we look at those decisions we're making in life, and we look at the decisions we make for diabetes, and are we making that choice out of fear, or
Hmm.
are we making that choice because we know, okay, this is going to be the best option, and if this doesn't work, here's my plan B. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, that's kind of hard to communicate. But I think if we go about it knowing, yeah, I'm going to do this because I'm fearful of not doing it or fearful of the alternative, that's not from God because God doesn't fill us with fear.
Mm. Yeah. Good reminder. Yes. Yes. It should feel good. It should
Right.
feel at ease. Yeah. It should not cause more turmoil.
And this goes for our
Yeah.
self-talk in our head.
Hmm. Yeah.
Because I can fill my head with all sorts of things that, I would be able to justify if I really wanted to.
Sure.
Uh, and it's anxiety, or it's fear, or it's I'm inadequate, or like all the things you can tell yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And those things are not from God.
There you go. Yeah, thank you. And that reminds me, you have a verse that is referred in here. It's Psalms 27.
Mm-hmm.
Could you read that for me?
Yeah, it says,
Short and sweet.
yeah, some trust in chariots and some in horses, but we trust in the name of the Lord our God. That's Psalm 20, verse 7.
Yeah. And that, that may sound a little, I don't know, kind of fairy tale, there's a lot of, oh my goodness, what's the word when there's it's kind of a parable. I mean, it's using something that's symbolic, but in this case, and I know especially in the Old Testament there was a lot of worshiping of idols. Guess
Right.
what, that is still happening these days.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, is right.
Chariot, but it's
So the chariots or the horses, so those are things online. Those are maybe even different books that we're buying that's trying, our intention is to help support us on decisions. And this is all types of books. It doesn't have to be diabetes related, but we all want help and support. We want to relate to something, and I think we can idolize things that we think are going to fill that need. And generally speaking, they don't. Even people in our life, our coworkers, our friends, sports figures, all those things that we think is something to follow. And then when you think about diabetes related, and I myself, I work as a coach and I support people. I definitely, I don't think I've ever been idolized. My goodness, no. I think admired. I think it's good to admire what people are doing and how they, kind of live their life, and the steps that I take as a woman with living with type 1. But it's a dangerous boundary there when we talk about idolizing. So we can put people or experts in the field on a pedestal, which can be very dangerous, because I think that, again, that takes away from what our heart and our head is telling us, because we do know ourselves the best. We don't necessarily need somebody telling us yes or no on something. Yeah, can you kind of relate to what I'm talking about? I know I'm just kind of going on about this, but I think it's so intuitive to really what we're talking about. Because nowadays, especially because 20 years ago, we didn't have internet and all these different social channels with all of these opinions. So it's hard to sift through that to really understand who we are, what we need, and what the Lord knows, best for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, it all goes back to our topic of building trust, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who are we
Really
going to
true.
trust in?
Mm-hmm.
And is it someone who's reputable and here to help us? Is it
Mm-hmm.
someone that knows what they're saying? Is your doctor knowledgeable and you're trusting in your doctor? We have to
Mm-hmm.
have a certain level of trust in our
That's
doctor.
true. That is
But
true.
when you
Yeah.
take it too far, I mean, it's any good thing taken too far is not a good thing, right? I think about, my personality wise, I'm like type A, go-getter type personality, and I can and that's a good thing, right? Being an entrepreneur and a writer, and you have to be motivated and self-driven and all the
True.
things. But taken too far, you get into like workaholic, and that's not a
Mm-hmm.
good thing. And so, you can take anything too far and it not be a good thing, right? It can start
Mm-hmm.
out as a good thing and turn out not being a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It sure can. Yeah. 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 Just got to do a self check every day, right?
Mhm.
Or maybe every hour.
As needed.
Yeah. Well, I have some exciting news. whether or not you are a subscriber now or you want to be, which I highly suggest, every Tuesday I pop into your inbox. And I have a slight twist this year with what I am providing my subscribers. So you get practical tips on keeping things sustainable from your kitchen to the gym, plus some guided thoughts. And I sprinkle in some, obviously, those practical tips and lots of hope. And I draw inspiration right here from my podcast episodes. And as a coach and woman managing diabetes myself, my aim is to help you balance insulin sensitivity, your hormones, and your emotions living with type 1 diabetes. And your feedback that I've received really has inspired me to make this switch to be a little bit more laser focused on what I'm providing every one of my followers right here. So it's in the kitchen, discovering meal ideas, carb-friendly recipes, healthier swaps, ingredients, and supplements to support you. And then in the gym, and you don't have to belong to a gym to benefit from what I'll share, just motivation to create your own routines, just to really focus in on building muscles, to strengthen our bone health, and of course, enhancing our insulin sensitivity, right? And then finally, in your thoughts, I share reflections and ideas to inspire your journey and your relationships, and most importantly, your acceptance of this condition, because you know what? Our thoughts dictate our health. So if this sounds like something you want to be a part of, simply visit the link right here in the show notes and subscribe and join us. We hope to see you there. Some other things that obviously we have to decide every day is, things that we need to continue to build trust on is our decisions around, we started at the top of the show talking about the pump choice that didn't work for you, that closed loop. But, things like this is a very, very common topic. I know I've been getting a lot of questions about this recently inside of our community, is correcting highs and especially treating low blood sugar. Because that can be, and I think, again, there's a lot of opinions about how to do that. And I think, again, that comes back to what we know about what works for us the best. And this is a really good example. Because again, it's funny because I used to, and I still do this. I still kind of do the 15-15 rule, as long as I'm not like so low that I can't, I can hardly sit, which is another whole story. But if I'm capable, let's say my blood sugar is between 60 and 70 and my CGM's showing a slight arrow down, I can, mindfully make a decision on how to treat that. And again, I think it's really about knowing ourselves from past low blood sugars and what worked and what didn't work, and knowing, how this one can be treated better, no judgment, just trying to kind of learn from ourselves and to trust that we know how to get that blood sugar up to a good level without it going too high. And then we have to bolus because we overshot the low. I've done that many times. I know so many of us have done it. So how does that sort of thing, I think that's where there's a lot of opinions about what's the best way to treat a low. But I think it all does come back to just building trust with what you know about your body and past experiences.
Yes. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think there are some really good guardrails, right? Like bumper bowling for kids, right? Like these are some really good ideas, and you're going to land somewhere in the middle, right? That's really what I think. And so I think in terms of treating lows, if you're using something that's a fast acting sugar, right? That's important because you want it to respond quickly. You don't want to eat a cracker. You want something that is sugar to get you up, right? Or glucose, or, So eating something that's fast acting and watching, I think tracking for yourself, all of our bodies are made uniquely. And it's just, there are some really good guidelines, and it's a matter of figuring out where you fit in that guideline and how things work for you.
Yeah.
So yes,
just trusting in your decisions. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to this story about this closed loop. There are pumps there are CGMs, there's multiple daily injections with insulin pens, and there's all these ways that the tools we can use to help us manage our diabetes. And it's a matter of what's best for me in my lifestyle, for me in my time of life, for me with either convenience or not, or
Mhm.
what, some people I know have chosen a tubeless pump simply because, or gone to a tubeless pump because
Mhm.
they have an infant or a toddler.
Mm.
And that tubing is okay, great. That
Yeah.
makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So
Makes
I
sense
think
for them. Mhm.
we have all these tools now, which is very different from when you and I started this ballgame.
Mhm.
But we have all these tools, and it's a matter of learning and being knowledgeable and applying it to your own life and your own comfort level, even with diabetes. Because if your endo is pushing you towards a certain system and it's just not working, that anxiety is
Mm.
going to wreck your blood sugar. You just
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's a matter, like we've been talking about, it's individual decision. A lot of it is trial and error,
Mhm.
um, and just learning what works for you and how your body responds.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, yeah, you just nailed it with that. A client was just asking me the other day, this is a newly diagnosed, and she's just understanding how to treat highs and lows. But I think she really thinks it's a one size fits all. Again, she's still learning. She's
Yeah.
still trying to understand her body. So I think and that's exactly what we're working on. I mean, the timing is building trust because you will start to learn what will work for you. I can't tell you. I can tell you what's worked for me last week when it happened to me, but that's not going to relate to where you are at this time and all the other factors that affect blood sugar. So it does. And I think some people just want a plan, they just want to be told what to do. And I guess that makes it easy. That takes the thought out of it because there's so much thinking with diabetes. But unfortunately, we have to be engaged in order to make these decisions, to get, to be closer with the diabetes. Because guess what? We kind of have to be, we kind of have to be in the same room. Yeah, we
Wouldn't
can't.
that be amazing to just, it's like, boop, here's the answer.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep. Dial it up, right? Dial it up.
right,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
yes,
know. And I think that is the hardest part when I'm working with these newly diagnosed ladies is again, they're in most instances they're diagnosed later in life. So it's like they're not only are they learning about their body and what's happening and this disease, but the fact that there's things that they can't control and they have to really just take the time to learn, to build the trust, that soon one day you will be more confident about your decisions. It's hard. That's hard. I
it
know.
is so hard. And I
Hmm.
think, I was talking with someone over the weekend about it, just encouraging her because she's married to someone who has
Mm.
diabetes. And I said, it doesn't get easier necessarily, but we become stronger and more
Mm.
wise because we learn from experience.
Yeah.
And then the things that we thought were really big deals, how do I treat this low? Is
Mm.
like, okay, this is how I'm going to treat this, and I'm going to watch it and see what happens.
Right. Yeah.
The pressure starts to come off a little bit because of your experience and your time with it. You sort of become a little bit more comfortable and more confident in yourself.
Yeah. 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 And like all good things take time, right?
Yes. Yes. Oh my.
Nice. So you, at the end of this chapter, or I should say, yeah, yeah, it's a day 27 chapter. You always leave with reflections, which is how we like to leave the episodes as well. But I really want to take some time to look at this, and we touched on it just a few minutes ago when we were talking about to be careful with who and what we're looking for guidance and who to trust. But so the reflection, if you can read that reflection end, so this is page 120 of the book,
Yeah.
and we
It
can
says, oh, go ahead.
yeah.
It says, take a moment and consider where you place your trust.
Mm.
What in this world continues to call your name and beg for your attention and allegiance? How can you shift your perspective to trusting God through it all? And then I've got a couple places. It says, make some notes and pray today about being fully anchored and fully trusting in the name of the Lord our God. So I
Mhm.
think it's just a good opportunity to take a little bit of an inventory of these are the things that I place my trust in, and how can I shift to trusting God? And that
Mhm.
doesn't mean I'm just going to write God on this line. I'm just going to trust God. Like
Right. Yeah.
that's ultimately, but who are the people, and what are the things you can trust in? Like, for example, trusting in yourself and the nudge that he gives you, believing
Mhm.
and being confident in yourself. Or, I'm going to trust my endo because I've done the research. This one is very knowledgeable and I've
Mhm.
been with him for 10 years or what, I'm
Yeah.
gonna trust in what they're saying, but those kinds of things, I think we need to hold our trust a little bit loosely
Mhm. Mhm.
because we always need to be asking questions and advocating for ourselves for the best management that we can attain.
Yeah. Yeah. And a little part of what you just read with that is what in the world continues to call your name and beg for your attention and allegiance. That's
Mhm.
pretty powerful because this is kind of putting in taking care of ourselves really into perspective. And we are busy. We all have a level of busyness. We're juggling a lot. And I think there's examples of, you talked about work where, where's the boundary with how much work we're going to do in a day. Maybe how much time we're spending socially. Again, this is not judgment. This is just bringing things up. But I
Mhm.
think, and it's difficult because there's that balance with, okay, guess what? Your health does come first. It is, we need to put attention into something that is, in all the examples we've used, is to build trust in our decisions. But when we can easily get pulled away where we're not really devoting as much time, attention to all those things that we need to do to support life with diabetes. So it's just a kind of it got my attention, that particular sentence in there. So, what is the noise calling your name, begging for attention and allegiance? Well, we need to take care of ourselves. Number one is taking care of ourselves. It's so, so important because nothing else is going to work good. And it can be such a vicious cycle when we feel like diabetes is taking over our our functionality every day, and then it weighs on us emotionally, and that can be just a vicious cycle. But we need to come back to it is okay. And I'm sure your family and friends are not going to they'll hold this against you if you devote time to taking care of yourself.
Absolutely.
You know, it's real important. It's about setting those priorities and knowing that is the first. It's not selfish to devote time to your diabetes for sure.
No, no. And like you said, this vicious cycle when we're not taking care of ourselves, how can we take care of another person? If you're a
Mhm,
mom or a
mhm.
grandma or you just that's really hard. And that just starts a spiral, right?
Mhm.
And that's exactly what I went through with this experience that we talked
Yeah.
about in the beginning of it was affecting my marriage, it was affecting my parenting, my
Mhm.
sanity. Like at the end of
Mhm.
it, I was just done.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have to learn to be in tune with ourselves and to trust ourselves and to know where to draw that line.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, really good. Well, we really hope this kind of opened everybody's eyes to um, you are number one, and God is there for you. He is going to guide you. Just keep your eyes and your heart open to that, and surround yourself with people that are going to love and support you in that process. Now, is there any final readings that maybe some of the listeners can look at? They can open up their Bible
Yep,
that would help support this topic.
of course. So I've got them listed in the book, but I'll list them here too.
Okay.
It's Proverbs 3:5,
Mhm.
and then in the book of Isaiah, chapter 41, verse 10, and Second Timothy 2:13.
Mhm.
Those are all definitely good ones.
Yeah, yeah, I appreciate that. Really
Yeah.
good. Well, let us know how this topic spoke to you today. We're always looking for feedback and some ideas too. This book has got 30 days, and we have touched on, I believe we've done three. I think we've done three so far. We're kind of jumping around, and we're just doing that because it's kind of fun to jump around. No, really, we definitely could have started with day one and gone through, but again, we did day 27 today.
Yeah, there's really no, I mean, you could do that if you wanted to. There's
right.
really, it doesn't build on each other. This isn't like reading a novel.
Which is why we're doing it that way. Yeah. So it's really topic driven and, things that are speaking to us. So stay tuned for the next one. We will pick a day. And if you have the book and there's a day that you would love us to unpack here, let us know. Yeah. You can send Kaycee a message. So how can people find you? Just remind our listeners.
Yes. So my website where I blog is devotionsondiabetes.com. And you can also send me a message through Instagram. I'm at Devotions on Diabetes.
Nice. Super easy. I love it. And we, as always, will link that here in the show notes. And yeah, you've got some great things going on that website of yours. Just some really good nuggets. You're starting to add some more recipes and the Bible reading plans, and such a beautiful site. So we definitely encourage you to check it out. And yeah, reach out to Kaycee. So again, have a beautiful day and keep building that trust in you and leaning towards God for your guidance. And we will see you back in here same time next week. Thank you for listening to the Type 1 and Midlife podcast. We are so grateful for the time that we spent together today. And if this conversation resonated with you, or you just love connecting with others living with T1D, please take a moment to leave a rating and review. Your feedback helps us reach more people who need this community and resources. And if you realize you need more support than you're currently getting, remember you don't have to struggle alone. Visit me at abundanthealthwithmelissa.com for free resources on mastering type 1 diabetes in menopause and to stay connected and learn about my coaching programs. We look forward to being together next Monday. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss a single episode. Remember that together we can age gracefully with type 1 diabetes.